hard, but we're doing it together.
Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall. Stoked to have Mike Zuppa from Edmonton Impact, MVP at the last event in a little outside of Sacramento. And it was a masterful performance. Mike was just tearing people to bits. I can't wait to get into this discussion. Mark your calendars, though. We got the next NXL event coming up. It's the Windy City Major. There's a lot at stake there. Me and Zuppa are going to get into it here and talk about the league as well, because it's getting interesting at the top. It's getting interesting also at the bottom of the pro division as well, too. It's getting very competitive overall in the pro division. So September 9th through the 11th, battle going to be going down in Chicago. Can't wait for that one. So Mike, let's jump into this here. First of all, congrats, dude. MVP, move of the tournament. You got the money that with the new prize from McClendley Mosley and Associates. Thank you so much to them to putting up some cash. But you got the move of the, and it was kind of up in the air too. Maybe we start there. Talk to me about what was going down in your head on Sunday. Obviously you had been playing so well, pretty much every single game for Impact. You guys were just dominant out there. But maybe just take me into that moment when you were just dicing people up in a low body situation to make yourself a little bit more money.
Yeah. So, man, it was a heck of a tournament, and the whole team was firing on all cylinders. In that final match, we were just really flowing well. You know, we got up 3-0, and in the 4-1, I knew I had to burn time. It was a 2-on-5 for a while with Brandon and I. He shifted back to the corner. We were trying to control things there. That back corner was so tight, and I think he got clipped. So 4-on-1, I was in this corner and just taking my time, trying to relax, blowing out time. And on the D side, I knew they had to jump through those gaps. And so I just would stuff 6 balls, 10 balls, shift right down the snake tape, 6 balls, 10 balls. And picked up the first guy coming down the D side, and I wasn't quite sure if I shot him. Had that snake side engagement with the 50 snake from the snake corner, and he was just shooting over my head. So I kind of just kept playing in the lane and shot right over back him. And then once it was a 2-on-1, I was like, "Whoo, okay, that was the hardest part right there. Let's just slow it down a second." And yeah, they kind of just. They kept pushing up on the D side a little bit. And the main thing was I felt comfortable in that back corner spot, took my time, and there was no rush. The longer I lasted, the better position we would be in, and they had to come to me. So I just tried to play that in my favor the best I can. And I've been in several one-on-ones with Nick Zoyak already. So we kind of know how each other play, and got a lucky shot on him. So it was definitely a nerve-wracking moment, but I had to just stay calm and live. Most people just get really frazzled and fight too much, and I just had to live. That was really my only job.
And this is, again, we have a lot to discuss and break down with your career and the team and your performance, but I'm glad we're kind of starting at this very stressful moment when you had to pull off something that we don't really see. I mean, we don't really see 1-on-4s pulled off very often. But I thought that it's a pretty telling that the way that you talked through that and discussed your mindset at that. And this is just something I've noticed. You're not, I mean, when you were first coming up the ranks and I first saw you as a young teenager, fresh pro, rookie pro, mid to late teens, because you're 28. And, if we go back now, what was it, 11 years ago? I mean, so you're, 17 years old playing pro.
Yep.
And you were,
17.
Just like most up and coming, fast, aggressive young guys, a little frantic out there on the field. And now here we are. We teleport ourselves a decade later, and you're, winning move of the tournament and solidifying the MVP in this moment and really putting the coffin nail in your opponents to win your team the event, and also put you guys in a really good spot moving forward for the Champions Cup that's coming up here. And you guys are tied for 3rd place right now. But all of that came, as you just discussed, by being calm, composed in a pressure moment. A 1-on-4, you're never supposed to win those. And when people would ask, hey, how do you pull those off? I'm like, well, you really should feel zero pressure if you're ever in that situation, because you're never supposed to make it out of there alive. So what are you worried about?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it looked like. And it was just so cool to see, your mentality approaching these moments in these overall battles. and to see your development as a human and as a paintball player. And that's kind of what I want to discuss today. So now let's talk about that real quick and how you kind of feel you're approaching the game mentally. Because, obviously there's a lot of pressure this year. You make the move over to Impact. There's tons of chaos. With Revel last year, you really became somebody that we were looking at as an elite threat. And then, you're not going to get a call from Dave Baines in the offseason if you're not an elite threat in this league. So then you move over to Impact, and then the whole Saints things happen. And then those guys come back, and because you're new on the squad, we were wondering, well, what's going to happen to Zuppa? Because now they get Alex Goldman back. And then not only do you stay on the team, they keep you on the team, but here we are at the 4th event and you're winning the MVP. And even though Mouse was there, they flew him in and he wasn't there in the beginning. You were playing so well that you got the starting nod over arguably the greatest Snake player ever to play the game. That's a really cool story, man. So like we're gonna slowly but surely we're gonna get there. But talk to me about the mentality you're taking to the game now, and then I would like to throw us back and teleport us 10 years ago to when you started with CEP and kind of talk about that journey a little bit. But yeah, talk to me about the mentality that you're bringing to the game right now.
Yeah, definitely. I will loop it back into just off the bat how the mentality was coming in. And I think it's important to see that how I've progressed or how I think about the game and how it's changed. For a while, I was looking at players and wanting to play like them, and sometimes that even happens like on Impact. I'm with Mouse and I'm like, I want to play like Mouse, man. Like we're on the same team. Like I want to, take notes and ask him everything. And I've slowly come to learn that, I'm not maybe the fastest, and you kind of understand what your pros and cons are as a player. And the past couple of years, I've really just focused on playing like my style and my tempo. And I think everyone's got their own style and tempo. So for a while, you're trying to, take some sauces and seasonings from different players you've watched over the years. And I just try to refine that into understanding how I play, what I'm capable of, and kind of what I'm good at. So for me, it's I'd say like my strengths are kind of playing the chess. At least I like to think so. And that's the part of the game that I really get off to most is the chess, some of the statistics as well, how you're running to bunkers, even the psychology of a game or psychology of a gun battle. When I'm not playing, it's running through my head nonstop. How would they react in this situation? And how does this feel? How do the paintball sound in XYZ bunker? It's really like the game starts every single time a new layout comes out and start piecing that together. So I think I'm an engineer by, my background's engineering, and that's kind of how I approach the game. I really structure it out the best way I can and then flow when I can in the tournament.
So let's try to retain those concepts but bring me back to little Mike Zuppa. It's just, fresh pro on the scene with CEP, and what was that like? I mean, because we don't really have a ton of guys. It does happen, but it is still relatively rare to get a guy start as a teenager as a pro. Especially, it was a little bit more common back in the day. It's becoming less common, because like look at the Hurricanes, right? I mean, look at the New York Extreme guys. I mean, look at a lot of the Elevate. I mean, a lot of these teams that have come up the ranks the past couple of years. These dudes are grown men who have fought their way up the divisional ranks, and then now they're playing pro. But throw us back, teenage Mike Zuppa, you're playing in, back in the PSP back then. I mean, what do you think is the big difference between your game now and your game then? Because you were an aggressive dude. I mean, I remember when CP, you were one of the guys that was a standout on that team. That team got a lot of penalties and didn't really have a ton of success. But you guys took your beatings like men and were pretty tough and level-headed about that whole experience. Mm-hmm. I felt. But what was going on in your mind at that time, and then comparing, maybe contrast that to where you're at currently and the lessons that were learned?
Yeah, I mean, CP came into pro, and we thought we were some pretty bad dudes. I mean, we gave out some bruisings and some beatings in divisionals, and I thought we were a heck of a force. And stepping into pro was definitely like the next layer of the game was revealed, and we lost in ways that I had never thought about losing. And in terms of strategy, like we got our minds blown consistently. Every single tournament was like, whoa, like I've never seen the game played that way, or I've never seen mid-game adjustments like that. So, we came out to just, play as fast as we could, play as aggressive, and, bump heads with everybody. But other teams, and this is what we learned, we're just good at controlling that, managing that, and kind of manipulating how we played. So it was very much a learning experience for all those beginning years. We got mercy ruled a lot. And from a team that came winning so much in the divisionals, that was a really hard dose for us to accept. It was like, we can't even get a win out here in pro. That's a whole different game. So it was very humbling at first. And that didn't, take my drive out of the game or anything. I just knew that I didn't have it figured out, and I can't stand to not have a good grasp on something or not understand why I'm losing. I'm really competitive. So it just took a lot of, I guess, collecting all these different situations in my head. I have my own little workbook of things that have happened or situations that have occurred and how they have unraveled and probabilities of each move. And it just took a lot of beatings to finally get a couple wins.
Well, it's interesting because, the mindset, and this is just, I obviously you got a lot of people that watch this show that are divisional paintball players that one day want to be you. They want to be whoever's on the other side of this lens that is getting catalog, putting accolades onto the trophy shelf, constantly being lauded as a badass, force in this game. And the road to get there is treacherous, it's difficult, it's very subjective. It's not if this, then this type situation. And as an engineer, that must drive you crazy. I have a lot of engineers in my family. We have like teachers and engineers in my family. Basically, those are the two routes that it goes in the mindsets. And so I've known a lot of engineers in my day, and they're very regimented and can get a little frustrated when it's like, well, it's 2 and 2 is 4, and this is how it's supposed to be, and why won't this, but that's not paintball. Paintball
that is not paintball at all.
It's not paintball, but that's what makes it so addictive. But when you look at, if you go back and you look at how you did personally on the teams that you played, and then the other guys that comprised CEP, man, you guys were beating that ass in these divisional ranks coming up. D1, D2 back in the day, what used to be semi-pro, what is now semi-pro used to be D1. And when I'm looking at your
comfortable.
Dude,
so we
seconds,
were
first,
back
thirds,
then. That was a problem.
Fourths, you guys were handling. And then you come into the pro league, and we always talk about what's the difference, right? And then obviously you're doing this as a teenager, so there's going to be a little ego involved there. The way that the human brain is constructed. It's very rare to find a level-headed 17, 18-year-old dude. And especially somebody that's had some early success as you guys came up the ranks. But maybe if you could, again, just kind of take your analytical engineer mind and put it to something that you have now, as looking that it's a very subjective thing. And, there's many ways to accomplish, being good at paintball, stylistically, tactically, strategically, organizationally, ways to form teams. And if maybe you could kind of speak on that a little bit, because that's just, again, a lot of people are always wondering, they want the secret to the win, man. They want to know how they possibly could get to where you're at.
Yeah, I think to summarize those different categories, comfort is not always your friend. And if I look back on the times when I had the most growth or the most progression or took those steps forward, there were some really uncomfortable spots prior to that, and it was even shifting from CEP, taking a step back, coming back to Katana or going to Revo. Those are easy examples of uncomfortable positions, steps in new directions. Each of those times you're getting exposed. For a while with CEP, I was just exposed to the CEP recipe, and it worked for a while, but it just didn't necessarily work the same way in pro. So then I, experiencing different teams and playing with different guys on the field, I realized that there's a lot of different recipes, and it's a very dynamic off the field way to build a team. And so get as much experience as you can of different coaches, different mentors, different teammates, and learn what makes them tick. and how you can play with them. That's I thought what really helped me was all these different growth phases that I had to go through in uncomfortable situations. It's hard when you're a really young kid and all these guys are adults.
But it's so hard to have a voice sometimes. But isn't that important though? I mean, that's again one of the reasons that I love this game so much. And this is going to always be a theme. People don't get mad at me for repeating myself sometimes, because this is stuff that is so important that it bears repeating, because that's why we love this game so much. That's why, especially in today's modern world, the modern world is not doing anything other than making you more soft. Everything's more convenient. We're supposed to be way nicer to each other than it used to be when we were coming up back in the day. I mean, we could literally you and I could probably spend the next hour highlighting specific things in the way the modern world is making us weaker. But, contained in a human life is a multitude of decisions in which you can sometimes intentionally choose a harder path. And just participating in paintball as an activity, and I don't care it doesn't matter at what level, any level, just going to play for fun with your buddies at a bachelor party or a birthday party or whatever. Just doing it one time will already make you a better person. I was listening to one of my favorite, and I've mentioned this before on different shows, but it was so cool to hear this. But one of my favorite psychologists, he's an author, his name's Jonathan Haidt, and he was on a podcast talking about, he's written a book called The Coddling of the American Mind. He wrote another book called The Righteous Mind. He's a huge intellectual in modern day academia. He's badass. And he was talking about how he went and played paintball, and how that his day playing paintball, he felt like there was something in his soul that was, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was this filled with hyperbole and exaggeration. He was excited about this. He basically said that, when he went and played paintball, that it was like something existed in his soul that had cracked open, and he was like, this is what I'm supposed to be, because we're human animals, we have chimpanzees and bonobos as our closest relatives, and chimpanzees are some of the most violent creatures on planet Earth. That's in us. How do you harness and contain that as a human being walking around in the modern world? Paintball, it just gives you, so much of this mental physical battle, the yin and the yang battling against each other, having to work with other people, all these different things. So, if we maybe could just kind of go through, Mike, each one of these little jumps that you had, so you come in and just maybe go through just bullet points of lessons learned, because I definitely want to pick your brain, because you are a really smart dude, about the what impact right now, your performance at this last event. Obviously we dabbled in that a little bit, but I do want to get your thoughts on the league right now, because no one's seen the Champions Cup. This is a brand new thing. It's coming up, and it's going to be kind of a new thing as we go to World Cup. And the storylines that are kind of confronting us are getting a little bit fascinating. So I did want to get your opinion on that. But if we could just kind of go down memory lane a little bit. And you come in with CEP, you've been wrecking shop in the lower ranks, and you go pro, and all of a sudden you guys are taking dead last, 10 of 10, 8 of 10, 9 of 10, 12 of 12, 10 of 12. It's not, things are going really, really bad for you guys. It was so bad that CEP, we started saying that CEP stood for constantly earning penalties, because it was just, it was just bad. You were one of the standouts. There was some bias squad, there. Though. I'm sure there was, but I'm just letting the world know.
One new team in there. Yeah.
Hey, brother, it's your show too. You can say whatever you want. Tell me.
Because we're the new team in there, I feel like I remember referees are wanting to make an example of us, welcome to the big leagues. And I thought some of the penalties just got to be ridiculous, but we were constantly catching penalties, and that really held us back. But there was just the whole CEP experience was eye-opening to me. We came in, we had, I thought, a really good team organization and structure. We had great funding. We had some pretty good players, but learning how to I hate to say this, learning how to lose at first did not sit well. We all expected to win all the time. So we didn't know how to handle adversity at all. And that was, I thought that set us back so much. And you could see the morale of the team drop. And sometimes if you get beaten enough, you see some people just lose the will to play the match. That should never happen. You always have a chance to win and come back. But when you get beat down that much, I think looking back, you could kind of see it maybe some people didn't expect to win or didn't expect to had lowered their expectations, and that should never happen. I guess I kind of learned that in that next step. Revo and Impact, we always expect to win now, so they're very highly contrasted if you look at it from that angle.
Well, you battled with them for a while. Again, you were really young though, so obviously, as you're wrapping your head around trying to play pro paintball, you got to figure regular life out too. And like you said, you're an engineer, so that all worked out. But that's also, maybe you could touch base on that if you have any advice for people coming up the ranks, because can you make money playing paintball or in the paintball industry? Sure, there's a handful of dudes that just get paid to play, but that's not the smart way to go about it. Ideally, you're using paintball as, if you are getting paid, supplemental income, unless you're like in the very, very, very top tier. But even then, it will give you the ability to go and do something else with your life. It could be a springboard to something that you're really passionate about, that you want to chase. So if you had any advice to kids kind of coming up the ranks, as somebody that has fought through this, and made their way now to a bright day and a good future. We were just talking off camera how, I was talking about how baller your spot looks, and you're like, dude, I'm about to go, I'm getting a van and I'm going to go travel around a little bit. So it's a cool thing. We could talk about that too if you want. I'm down to talk about anything you want. But there's a lot of people coming up. They want to know, how do I juggle that? How do I juggle a job in paintball, a relationship in paintball, real life, and my passion?
Yeah, paintball has always been a priority to me, and thankfully my parents were always very supportive. Shout out mom and dad. They always were getting me to practices or coming with me to tournaments early on when I was a young kid. But it just truly led to so much positivity and growth in my life. I mean, as a young kid, hanging out around all the older guys, have so many big brothers and so many mentors in this space that whether it's paintball or not, I call them all the time and chat about XYZ normal life problem, or just lean on them as a friend and as a resource. So paintball has led to an incredible amount of growth off the field for me. Adversity in situations, and even if you're going into you're at a job or let's say like you're in an interview or you have some type of job conflict. I've solved some conflicts before, many of them on the paintball field, in the pits. Adrenaline's high. We're screaming and yelling at each other sometimes, and those types of experiences, while they might be uncomfortable at the time, they have led to they've just helped me so much. So you're gonna, anyone that's starting out in this sport or is younger playing divisionals, really enjoy that and meet a bunch of people, ask people for help. I remember all of these memories and situations, and they're just as important as some of my memories in pro. I love some of those divisional times. So you don't really recognize what is shaping you and what is helping you until sometimes years down the road. And looking back, a lot of my friends in high school, they were just around other high schoolers. For me, being around just such a diverse group of people was, I think, really, really helpful for me. So get out there and don't be afraid.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good one, right? So just get out there and don't be afraid. It's just, Brian Greenspan and I would joke about this all the time, but if and there's some psychological studies that have been done about this, but a lot of times we have the negativity bias, right? So because we don't want to fail and die, if you take it all the way back, from an evolutionary standpoint, we put a lot of focus on when things don't go well. Are you still there?
Yeah, can you see me?
Okay, yeah, I can see. Yeah, sorry, thought I lost your audio for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we put a lot of pressure on, on that negative side of things, because we really focus on that, because we don't it's, if you want to know what the the person that's being successful is doing, because you would like to emulate that, but you really swipe tabloids exist and why trolls exist. But people so much want to know what's going wrong, because you definitely don't want to do that. I mean, and our brains put a lot of emphasis on that, and even negative, things that happen. But the thing is that, this is why Brian and I would joke about this. It's like, dude, if as long as you don't die, it just becomes a really funny story to tell later on. You know, I mean, everyone's got that
Yeah.
horrible story where, you know, just pick a horrible story. As long as you made it out of that alive, I mean, even if it's super embarrassing, that's just a really funny story that you get to tell later on. And with paintball, the fact that, you know, in all these divisions, we got 20 pro teams and 1 team wins and 19 teams lose. And then it just gets worse as you go down the divisions because it's so hard to win a divisional event. But yes, it's fundamental to understand that, you know, it's like I always say this too, is thank your enemies. Because if you don't have good enemies, then you don't really know how strong you actually can be. So then kind of talk to me about that. So Chattanooga CP, you're pro, and then you kind of go back into the ranks a little bit, reemerge with PC Katana in 2017. Because 2013, because again, I remember you coming up, and then it was a little bit, it took a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're back with PC Katana. And I remember thinking, oh, dude, I remember Zuppa. Let's see what he's got now. And then PC Katana.
I took a year off.
Yeah. And then so PC. So talk to me about that adventure, though. You know, I mean, PC Katana ends up going pro, kind of down in your neck of the woods where you came up. And then, you know, you guys go pro, did really well in semi-pro, 7th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd. Badass. It's great. And then coming to pro, I had a couple flashes of, I mean, we're getting better. But then, you know, just kind of a couple seasons of struggling middle of the pack, lower pack. And then you end up, and then we'll get to Revo. But, you know, talk to me about that time on PC Katana coming back into the pro ranks.
Yeah, so I originally joined PC Katana after taking a year off. I was playing Georgia Tech Paintball, and I had a blast, right? But I really wanted to get back into tournament paintball, and the second I left from CEP, I was already like missing the itch. You know, I was like, I got to get back out there, and it was a new direction. I had played with the CEP guys my whole life. Those are my brothers. I couldn't imagine playing and connecting with any other group of people. Like, I was so disconnected to CEP at the time. So Katana was, again, a new step, new guys. I was the ex-pro for whatever that meant, because we were the last place team, you know. But I was the ex-pro, and we played semi-pro, and we had a blast. I thought that was an important part of Katana. We had so much fun, and everyone was just really driven, really motivated. We played at Prime Paintball. Shout out to Prime Paintball, because we would wake up in the morning, have breakfast casserole, play all day, play in the night underneath the lights, play Fridays, play Sunday afternoons. It would just, some of the most paintball I ever played in my life was definitely on Katana semi-pro. And we won the series that year. And I remember we had the invite to pro, and I said, hey, guys, maybe we just stay semi-pro and we just keep winning. Because pro, you know, I remember what pro was on CEP, and it can beat up some teams unless you're really prepared, and you got to have the right funding, the right support and structure. And Katana had a lot of that, I think more so than CEP. So coming into pro with Katana, like, I was really confident with our lineup. You'll still see some of the guys from Katana playing around today, and I think they're really dirty paintball players. Different teams. I think the CEP team in semi-pro right now has some of those Katana guys, and I always go watch them. But yeah, that was a really dirty team. But I think the downfall of that team was we kind of were still missing a little bit of structure. We didn't know what was our formula in pro. And again, I'm contrasting this all to like an Impact, which that's the biggest thing that stands out, is like how structured Impact is to win, how much support you have on and off the field. So we were still kind of missing that on the Katana group, but we certainly had a blast. And that was my first team where I felt like I was more in a leadership position. I kind of had a little bit of experience, and we really got to formulate game plans together and help some of these divisional players step into pro, and some stay in pro, and some still, be really good players today. My first experience kind of being more of a core of the team.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. Leaders emerge from you having been there before. The fact that you had been there, it's multiple things, right? I mean, one, you have to be an intelligent person that people want to listen to. You have to have a force of intellect and charisma that will allow you to actually lead human beings, because even if you're put in a position that's a leadership role and you don't have that charisma or that intelligence or that experience, you're probably going to fail in that position, and it's not going to help the people that are, coming behind you. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then, how did you end up from going from PC Katana to getting onto Revo? I mean, it makes sense, when that, because again, even going all the way back, like I saw the potential that you had on CEP, but you were just that quintessential young, fast, aggressive, dude who dies too much when he's in his spot. It's literally, that's just how it is. It's constantly, it's every single young and up and coming guy pretty much just always. I mean, with very, very rare exceptions. But it takes a couple years.
So,
I mean, everyone takes a couple years if it happens. The fact that it happened to you, that you emerged past that, is impressive. But yeah, how did you end up, getting onto Revo from PC Katana?
Well, I think this is where it gets a little bit spicy because, all right, so this is my second time in the Pro Division, and I thought we still had a pretty solid team the first year or two in Katana. And then, the definition of insanity is just like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Results. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how things got. Like, this isn't working, guys. We're losing. Let's try something else. And it got to a point where I did want to prioritize. I did want to go and win a freaking tournament. And I thought, I love these guys. These are now like my new set of brothers. I can't imagine playing without them. And but at the same time, I see this opportunity with Revo, and I thought that was a step in the right direction and a step for new growth in an uncomfortable situation. And I thought that on Katana, we were just doing some of the same things over and over again. I had seen it before on CEP, and I said, I gotta jump ship. So I love the guys, but I had to make this decision and had to go chase after the dream. So I mean. I guess I say it was kind of nasty just because I was frustrated for sure. I love those guys, but we weren't growing. You could be playing a tournament and you could be practicing, but are you actually getting better? And are you actually correcting the things you're doing wrong? And sometimes you just get in those ruts. And so I parted ways, and I love those guys. I still see those guys today. And that's when I joined Revo, and that was definitely just like one more notch up on the ladder in terms of rankings and talent on the team. And that was a whole nother chapter right there.
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting, right? Is that, I mean, it's been interesting, but look, this isn't, every paintball team is stratified. Not every single dude on the team is as good as every other guy. That's just how it is. Welcome to the real world. And it's a microcosm of the real world. And when you do have and then everyone has also different concepts of what the journey means to them. So are we just having a good time? Like, what are we doing here? Are we trying to be the best team in the world? Are we trying to be the best team in our division? Are we just having a ball, crushing beers and eating good food and, getting a couple weekends away from the family? What are we doing? So when you have a group of guys that are all on the same page, that can be a very special thing. It can even be special when not everyone's on the same page, but it always does get a little spicy from the anger standpoint from some people when you have some people that are on one trip and then on other people that want to do something else. But yeah, man, I've never been this way. Anytime somebody made a change, different depending on the situation, but for the most part, it's like, dude, if somebody's gonna, leave the team to go play for, like when Todd left, I remember when Todd Martinez first came on the Ironman and he goes to Avalanche. Eric Roberts did the same thing. Avalanche was paying dudes, and we weren't at the time. The Ironman weren't paying dudes. It was heartbreaking to lose Eric Roberts and Todd, and I thought it was frustrating, but they can't really get too pissed at a dude that wants to go on a different adventure than we're currently on. It is what it is. But if you look back on it, it was revolutionary for your career to go to Revo. I mean, it makes a lot of sense now looking back. Obviously, hindsight 2020, but it must have been a little difficult at the time.
Yeah, it definitely was difficult. Again, I felt like I'm leaving my brothers, and Yeah, I did get frustrated with, some aspects of losing. I'm like, I do want to win. I've been playing this sport for a while at the time, and I want to win a pro tournament. And I felt like things were just getting stale for me on Katana. And I will say, like, part of the reason for leaving teams may be issues with the team, but at the same time, I'm like I said earlier, I'm like chasing this growth. It's always been the theme throughout my life, and putting myself in a new situation, and maybe things going on in my normal life at the time. I just said, you know what? Oh man, I just need to shake things up. I just need to try something new and go on a new adventure. So that's kind of what that step to Revo became. And just to step into this Revo conversation, that was the first group of guys where those guys just, I think, play really good paintball. I came off of on Katana and CEP, just grinding all weekend. I remember we shoot a skid of paint just on laning drills, and maybe we were wasting some of our time in paint there. But I got, we just put in the work, run, dive, slide drills, all different types of drills and teamwork, and that didn't necessarily get us to the top 8 or to the top 6 or to win the tournament. Now Revo, the second I stepped on the field with those guys, like, they played some paintball. They just knew what to do. They had the chest down, and they could wheel and deal and freestyle better than any other team that I've played with before. There was more of a confidence factor with Revo of like, well, we're going to smash this team and we're going to play smart ball. And we'd come up with a game plan, and then we would just know how to play off of each other. That was the first time, I guess, I played with what I think are some extremely talented people in the league, and still are.
Yeah. I mean, Revo's, and I'm interested to see, obviously, the transition away from Revo to Impact, but yeah, I mean, your move to Revo coincided with them taking some really big placings that, and I'm kind of proving a lot to the league. I mean, if we go, you get on the team midway through 2019, and then, it's all, and that's why it's tough. It's tough to go from one team to another mid-season. A lot of times, guys will catch some flack for leaving mid-season, but again, after seeing hundreds of these everyone is going to in that situation, and I get it. Again, it's just I typically will advise guys not to leave mid-season, but I will also advise guys that at the end of the day, man, like this is a story you're telling yourself when you're an old man, and what's the story you want to tell to yourself, essentially, because at the end of the day, that's all you get, because if it's true that your life flashes before your eyes when you die, then the last story that you're ever going to hear or see is your story. So you better make it a good one. And that's important. And so you leave mid-season and you go to Revo, but then Revo, I mean, this is a good move for Revo. It was a good move for you. This was your springboard to pro paintball relevance, because your talent was a little buried on PC Katana. I mean, that's the truth of it. You had gotten yourself to a point where you were obviously, now, as we've seen what you've done, because this is recent, man. I mean, PC Katana was 2019. So this is right before the COVID craziness hit all of us. And everyone's been dealing with, an altered landscape since then. But then you go on to Revo, and, we're talking like 7. So out of 20, right? 7th, 8th, 10th, 4th, 7th, 8th,
hey, those 14th, are the best 4th, I'd ever placed.
Yeah, I mean, but dude, a top 4 in the pro league is incredibly difficult to do. Yeah. That means you made it to the semifinals, man. Out of 20, you had to beat some real good teams, and you guys had a run last year that was pretty insane, knocking out some titans. And that's kind of how people start remembering your name. Once you start decapitating legends, then people have to start remembering who you are. A lot of times, sometimes people come up to you, hey, Matty, hey, say good things about me, bro. And I'm like, yeah, it has nothing to do with me, dude. It's all you. If you play really well, I'm forced to be like, shit, who is that? Who's number 33 on that team? I don't know. He's new. Does anyone know him? Time like texting dudes like, hey, who is this guy? Because he just shot 5 dudes, man. Now we have to know his name. So it's one of those things where it's just, and if you're playing like shit, I'm forced to talk about how you're not getting it done out there. It's just, all it is just, it's a mirror. I'm just got a megaphone that I'm holding up to the world and letting them. And Zuppa just shot 3 guys. What an amazing job over there. Zuppa just died going to a spot off the break. I mean, it's all 100% up to you. But you go to Revo and you start kind of becoming a guy we have to talk about, and a dude, because Revo was running a light line a little bit. So talk to me about because to me it did look like there was a little bit of a change. Maybe it wasn't to you. Maybe it was just a continuation of the mentality that you had been taking to things before. But it did look like, I think, to the rest of us, that you had put it in a different gear. Once you got to Revo, it did look like that you started to kind of coalesce into the player we thought you could be. Whatever, pick your metaphor here. Blossom into, whatever it is. I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. I mean, did it feel like you were just doing the same stuff you've been doing? What did it feel like to you in the moments? Because what it looked like to us was that you were starting to be a more proficient and fine a paintball player and emerging into an elite threat that people had to worry about. And at the same time, that team was redefining itself, losing guys. Zaleski was moving away from the game, and he was kind of their go-to snake guy. So they were kind of looking for a go-to snake guy. I mean, you've been, you're a versatile dude, but you're also now finding where's the razor's edge going to be for you? Where can you best cut? But yeah, just talk to me about that, because I feel that this was a big growth moment for you. That's what it looked like. I'm just wondering what it felt like.
So Revo was the first team that I felt like I really learned how to play a team paintball game. I would get to my bunker, and I guess like the way Katana ended, or even the way CEP ended, you get to your bunker or you look over mid-game and it's like, dang, who's left? Like, is this a bad situation? And, if we're down bodies, it's really not a good situation on CEP and Katana. That's what it felt like. On Revo, after the first couple of practices, it could be a 3-on-5 or a 2-on-4. And there was that confidence there. There was that ability to communicate and connect with each other and play team paintball that I had never experienced before in my life. And some of it was just natural ability of these guys on the team to connect with you, just to know the right thing to do. And so having this, playing along these guys that are extremely talented, and able to kind of support you, gives you some more confidence. Yeah, I wouldn't say I didn't have confidence in the teams in the past, but I had never felt so comfortable playing alongside certain guys. And they would know what I would want to do. I'd see their body language. I know what they want to do. And so that allowed us to all play off each other. And you still see that in Revo Paintball today. I think you're going to see butts up the middle, 2 people up the middle, 2 people down the snake side. They play very well as a team. And that was my first time living in that environment. And like I said, the practices weren't even as strenuous, or we didn't beat it up as much as we did on Katana, but that's what worked for Revo at the time. We could go in there and just, because we became such good friends, play very well together. That was, I think, something very unique about Revo that still exists today.
Well, so talk to me. I totally agree with you. Revo is so impressive to me because they keep losing guys and still just handle. And it's just a testament to how good the guys on that team are. They made some, moves this year that to kind of, stop the bleeding on the rosters that were great. But I do want to go back to the performance that you guys had in Chicago, because we're coming up on Chicago and it could be really hot out there. We don't know yet. It's Chicago in late summer. It could be 100 degrees. It happened to be pretty hot last year. But Revo had a pretty amazing performance to take top 4. And you guys had to go up against, Murderer's Row on Sunday, starting out in the wild card round against Edmonton Impact. And you win that game 7-6. And I think that this performance from Revo is why I didn't call Dave to confirm this. I do talk to Dave quite a bit, but I thought that this performance, you guys knocking out Impact and Heat in a row, was a big exclamation point for your careers, a statement to the league, and probably one of the reasons that you got the call in the offseason. Bring me back to that moment. You guys were playing down bodies. You didn't have a ton of dudes that were healthy. And so much so that once you beat Impact by 1 and then beat Heat by 1, you guys went and played X Factor kind of dead to the world and ended up losing by 4. And then I think Sheer went to the hospital after that. But if you could just maybe take me back to that moment Sunday morning and, talk about that amazing performance you guys had. because I think this was, when you look back at life and certain things happen, and obviously there's a lot of other guys that deserve, credit for that performance that you guys had. But for your life, there was a path that went this way. If you guys had not done that well, I don't maybe know if you get the call in the offseason. Maybe you do. Who knows? Things could have happened. You guys could have adjusted differently. Again, I'd like your thoughts on this, but this is just how crazy life is that you look back and sometimes just a little few things here or there, and all of a sudden things deviate and it creates a better day. Because here we are talking about this MVP you just had. You're on Impact. You just crushed it. Got some money for the best move of the event, put the team on your back to win. It's an Impact of all teams to win the tournament, getting started or mouse. And I think if we track it all back, part of this chapter emerges that Sunday morning. So talk to me about that Sunday morning.
Well, first off, thanks for seeing it that way. It's really cool that, there's a lot of people that watch the sport, but truly you did pick up on a very, very big moment or tournament in my career. That was one of my favorite tournaments of all time. And, we had it was more about like the extent of like brotherhood and beatdown that we got at that tournament together. We went through hell with those, with my teammates. So we started playing. I mean, we were playing pretty solid together, and it was a tight squad. It was like 6 or 7 guys on the roster, I think. So that Sunday morning was Impact and Heat, and then X Factor, and just after the Impact match, I mean, we were beat. High scoring games, hot as heck out there.
Yeah, 7-6
again. Just we were all just. I mean, we were super hyped. Oh, I know what it was. We actually, I think we were degassing our tanks the day before. We lost the last match, and we said we're out, going home. Yes, that's what it was. And I actually really blew that game. I threw that game away. I did not have a good match. I had a couple of really bad points in that match, and we lost, and boom, there we thought the tournament was done. And I was taking my tank apart, and that's when Jason came up and said, "Hey, sorry guys, we got a correction." And it was damage that got knocked out, and they threw a fit, of course, rightfully so, and we got in. So we're like, wow, okay, who do we play? Impact, Heat, X Factor. Okay. Well, let's just go swinging at them. So that Sunday, I mean, it was
no big
incredible.
Deal.
It was incredible paintball just to be like grooving like that with the team. And but after the Heat match, I'd never been so tired to this day after a tournament in my life. I remember Chris Shear and I, because he was slaughtering it on the D side. We were just running basically every point. I was running snake off break, going up to the 50. That's how it was. I don't know how many times I ran at that tournament. But after that second match, I learned an important lesson here about just like body management, hydration, the right type of hydration. We were sitting and stretching after that Heat match, and we're standing up and trying to stay moving, but things are starting to cramp, and our bodies were actually shutting down. I had been drinking all the water in the world, all the Gatorade, eating a little bit of food. I thought I was doing the right things, and I've always been aware of my body, but the body was cramping up. I wondered why my vision was a little bit foggy. I was wearing contacts. I'm like, maybe something in my contacts. That's dehydration. Okay, that's not a good sign. And
that's so hardcore, dude.
Chris, it was hardcore, and I went to that level with my brothers. And we gave it our absolute all on the field. And that X Factor match, I can't be too sad about losing that, because I mean, you had to literally basically carry Chris Shear on a stretcher, to the hospital. I mean, he was toast. The whole team was beaten up, and I couldn't talk. My voice was shot. My vision was blurry. Body's cramping up. To go to that level of wanting to win was such an important moment in my life. When things get tough, when you get shot a lot of times, or it gets really hot outside, people soften up, and the will to win, you'll see it just fall right out of somebody. They just say, you know what, I want to go back on my couch and have a nice glass of water and turn on the AC. We just fought to the end on that tournament, and that's what we didn't get first, but that's one of the best moments of my life, just to go to that level with some of my best friends.
I mean, again, like that's just so amazing that you put you guys, that paintball brought you to a place where you could be with these really close people that you've gone to war with, right? And then you push yourselves to the very brink of where literally one dude has to go to the hospital and you can't see straight. And I mean, it's just, but it's you have to do things like this because the world is not going to present these opportunities to you like they did to our ancestors. So you have to go, if you're, a stout enough soul and you're a brave enough creature, to go seek these things, whatever it may be, backpacking, some sort of whatever your thing may be, but to push yourself to a limit, because what it makes you realize is you're not made of glass, and I think that that's an incredibly profound message to take in for any human creature. And I applaud you guys on that performance. And I think that was one of the most noble fourth places I've ever seen anyone take. If you look at that tournament, you guys, first of all, you avenged yourselves because you lost to Impact 6-3 in your very first game. Then you beat Damage, good team, great team, won a tournament this year, legendary squad, one of the best teams ever. Who knows? Maybe the best team this year. We have 2 more events to go. Beat them by 1. And then you barely beat the Outlaws by 2. I wouldn't say barely, but that was a close game. And then you lose to Level. So, thinking you're going to go home, and then you draw Heat and Impact in your bracket, and then you knock out Impact by 1 and knock out Heat by 1, playing the spoiler to both those legendary franchises. And then, you lost to X Factor by 4. But you guys literally fought so hard that you had reached the end of the road physically, which is impressive, dude. So, a very incredibly noble fourth place. But that kind of set up, that was a big one for Revo, though. It was huge for Revo. It was huge for you and your career because, you were running to the 50 snake, and every elite team out there, a team that's the teams that have been winning tournaments, or that would like to win tournaments in the future, the teams coming up, everyone needs somebody that is athletic, aggressive, knows what they're doing, can play a smart, aggressive, like a smart one, that first attacker role. And you showed in that season with Revo that you had reached that. And so that's why then in the off season, you get a call and Dave Baines is hitting you up and, hey dude, what do you think about playing for Edmonton Impact? So let's go to there. Cause I can't keep you all night. And I do want to kind of talk about how things are going to go down here. But I got to ask you, so how did that go down?
Yeah, so it was pretty late in the off season, and I think Dave hit me up on Facebook Messenger, or he messaged me first, and then I got the call and we talked about it. And I mean, Impact is a team I've looked up to for forever. Even though I whooped their booty in Chicago that year, I still look up to them, and I look up to all those guys, not only just the players but the organization. I've been in so many organizations that have been trying to kind of figure it out of what is a winning recipe. And I had yet to really experience, what I think is a winning recipe. And I think that's what Impact has figured out very well. So I got that call from Dave, and I mean, this was another tough decision. This is the beauty of paintball. The Revo guys are my brothers. They're some of my best friends. I'm going to, Chris's wedding in about a month or two. And, I couldn't imagine not playing alongside those guys. I was personally going through some things in my life as well that, outside of paintball, that I just felt like I needed to go on another adventure. This happens for me every few years, and I'm kind of at a cusp now where I'm making some of my own personal life decisions that are in a new direction. But I felt like I needed this growth. I feel like it was an opportunity of a lifetime. And I think anybody, looking at the situation at face value, probably would admit a decision I made. I'm chasing knowledge. I'm chasing new experiences. And I was going to be at the bottom of the totem pole in Impact. And I'm just here to learn. And I've always wanted to say, what's behind the scenes at Impact? What are they doing different, or Dynasty or Heat doing different than us? And I just want to get that other perspective there. And so, yeah, Dave gave me the call, and I'd say, it took me a few days to make the decision. And one of the first guys I called was Derula. So we talked about it, and then he jumped on board as well.
Yeah. Well, see, this is one of the things is in the off season, I have quite a few of these conversations over the years. every conversation is slightly different, but a lot of them have some similarities. The one thing though is that when you do go to a team like Impact, if I had talked to you in the offseason, would have said, hey, Mike, if you stay on Revo and you, hey, Impact wants me to come over, you might even be able to get more from Revo, but, and you're going to play every single point. Like, you're the man over there, like you're their guy on that side of the field. If you go to Impact, I remember having this conversation with Brandon Cornell years ago and a couple other dudes over the years. But when they go to these top teams, I'm like, okay, well, here are your two roads. So I'm never going to tell anyone what to do. I'm just going to try to paint different eventualities for you, and then you get to make the decision. But if you choose to stay with Revo, you're going to play every single point. You're going to be the man. And again, obviously, when you get on these top teams, there is money involved, so that's a part of the conversation. But if you don't really need the money, then that's we're not even having that conversation. Then we're just having the conversation of what do you want your paintball career to look like, again, when it's all said and done. Because again, this is going to be just a story you get to tell at the end of the day. That's ultimately what you take away from this. So what story do you want to tell? But it is a little troubling, and it's difficult when you become like, so when I told Brandon, I would have said the same thing to you, Mike, you stay with Revo, you're the guy. You're the badass snake player or whatever, they need you, dude. You're the first attacker. You go to Impact. All right. You go into Survivor Island, bro. Like you may not see the field for the rest of the year, maybe, or a couple times. You really have, you keep what you kill. You keep what you kill overall in paintball. But when you get on these teams like Heat and Impact and Dynasty, I mean, you really have to perform over there or you will not see the field. And you need to know that going in, because there's been guys that go into those systems and get chewed up that we don't hear from again, or they go back to whatever, and hopefully they come back with their hat in their head, just, hoping, hey, please, will you let me back onto the squad? But you have to know that going in. But this is why it's super cool that I'm happy that we're having this conversation right now, because here we are 4 events into your career on Impact, and you show up with a situation where they needed you bad. Impact didn't have all their guys there at this, minor event. It's an open event. And even though it's at Dave's Field, I remember looking at the roster on day one, and I didn't hear that you guys didn't have all your guys. I'm like, they have their whole roster. They're only playing like 6 dudes. And then I talked to Dave afterwards. I'm like, why are you on? Yeah, I'm like, hey, you have your whole roster here. You're only playing 6 dudes. Like, did those dudes just crush it in practice? He's like, Matty, we only have 6 guys here. I'm gonna get. It is.
We're waiting for you to figure that out. Yeah.
No, I figured it out. Yeah, I know, but no one told me anyway. But I figured it out pretty quick, obviously. And then I'm like, okay, they don't have other guys. But that was what was cool about it. So they needed you. You stepped up, and then you just go and slaughter it, which is good for you, Mike. Good for you, dude. It doesn't always go down that way, and I'm so happy for you that it did. And that's a pretty special thing. And now again, you're 28, so you're coming into the prime of your life in a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at mixed martial arts, I've had this conversation with multiple people. We've had for years. I actually just talked to some people about this at the last event. But if you look at like in the UFC, sometimes a lot of guys don't reach their prime until they're in their 30s. And that's because it requires so many different parts and diverse facets of learning. Again, it's mixed martial arts. So you have to know kickboxing, just standard boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. You have to know all of these different, skill sets in order to prevail at that level. And then most importantly, you need to have the seasoning to tenderize your mind in a way where it's mature enough to take those lessons in from those moments. And you're now there. So, there's no reason, unless you let yourself get out of shape, that you're not going to spend the next, I'd say at least 5 years. Everyone's different, barring injury. Like, you're going to be in prime physical condition. Yeah, I'll knock on wood for you, dude.
Don't jinx
brother. I'll knock on wood. I'm not jinxing. I'm just knocking on wood. But this is just reality. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless you get lazy, you will be in your prime of your life for at least the next 5 to 7 years. So, and now that you are showing us what you can do, like you keep saying, playing the chess game, right? I mean, that's what paintball is. I mean, I had a conversation with the Notorious guys, the semi-pro team that came up. They got smashed in one of their games. I know their coach Ryan Gray really well, and so in between a little break, we just had a little bit of talk, and I told him, I was like, "Look, man, like, do you think this is a game of reflexes out here, or is this a game of mental tenacity and decision making? This is not a game of reflexes, and you're treating it like it's a game of reflexes." Alex Frazier is 40 years old. He's 40 years old. If you put Alex Frazier on a hooked up to a computer to test his reflexes, and how old are you? Oh, you're 22. Okay, we put you on a computer. You're 22 years old. Alex Frazier at 40. Do you think that he's going to have faster reflexes than you? Absolutely not. Measurably, once you get into your 30s and 40s, your reflexes are way worse than somebody in their 20s, which is why baseball players a lot of times hit their prime in a certain age. But that's not the thing for paintball, and that's not a thing for guys in mixed martial arts. Why is that? Well, that's because the game is all up here. Like General Mattis once said, one of the greatest generals the United States have ever had, the most important space on the battlefield is the 6 inches in between your ears. And so if you understand and stop thinking about this game as a game of reflexes, this is not how paintball is won. This has very little to do with it. This and running and shooting, that's great. That just gets you in the door. Congratulations. You look really cool as you're running out to the corner, running and shooting. That is not going to make you a legend. That's not going to win you tournaments. That has almost nothing to do with the conversation that we're going to have at the pro level about what is going to win or lose the game out there. So
Amen.
Stop pretending that. So stop pretending this is a game about reflexes and go out there and play paintball. And playing paintball is chess with guns. If you can't figure that out and you can't make a smarter decision, why do you think we call it the scramble? Everything gets scrambled up, and whoever figures it out first typically wins. And Mike, that's what you did really well out there. You played a very interesting. It wasn't even snake side. You had to do a lot of different, mental work to play that chess game, and you did that so many times and so consistently that again you got the start over Alex Goldman. So mad props to you. But thoughts on that, because I do want to shift to talking about a couple things real quick before we sign off.
Okay.
But again, this again, as paintball not being a game of reflexes, if you could speak on that a little bit, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Oh yeah, the chess is what I'm obsessed with as well. There's many different ways to win, different styles to win, and sometimes yes, you see some good snapshots, or there's fundamentals of the game, but that is consistent throughout pro. What is different, I think, is how the teams play together and that chess aspect. It's what I think about. It's what I primarily think about off the field as well. And I like to think kind of more abstract chess or game theory or psychology on the field. And you learn by losing that way and really paying attention, going back and being honest with yourself of what the heck just happened. What did they do? And looking at it from different angles. I am obsessed with the chess, and I think that's what the Impact guys do really well. They're starting to understand who I am as a person and as a player, and I'm starting to understand how they play and how we can play together. It's really key. So the chess is my favorite part, and on any given layout, I love to talk about the game theory on a certain side or up the center, or how the game matures throughout the weekend. That's what I like about blind layouts, is that you got to figure it out on the spot and quickly. And the teams that figure it out most quickly are rewarded from that. That's what I like about the blind layout. So that's exactly where my head's at and what I like about the game as well. It's never ending.
I'm glad that you like the blind layouts. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the blind layouts. Been asking people, if we had to go to all blind layouts, would you be down for that? And some people are, some people aren't. I got a chance to listen to when I was out there walking the fields in Sacramento. It was funny because it was level, and it was Weber and Schonauer, and they look at paintball a little bit differently. They're both really good. Those are arguably two of the best, maybe the two best players on level. But Weber had a really good event at the last one. But anyway, Danny hates the blind layouts, and Weber loves them. And so Weber was like, "Oh, I love the blind layouts, dude. This is how paintball should be." And Danny Schonauer was like, "Oh, hell no, dude." He's like, I like to get creative. So, I want to be able to get different spins and practice and try it. And then Weber was like, he's like, "Dude, you can do that in the middle of a game and people wouldn't know it was coming." So maybe that, anyway, so just real quick, your thoughts. Blind layout or no blind layout?
I really do enjoy the blend of it throughout the year. I get it. I think it's overall good, but you can't deny. And my theory on this is, if you're playing a blind layout, no one's getting all the practice. The mediocre teams aren't getting to watch what the good teams are doing and practice that. You have to be on the spot and learn how to play it on the spot. Some of it's wheeling and dealing. Like the first matches of this last tournament, it's wheeling and dealing. We got to figure it out. We didn't know how to play the 50s yet, and we had to literally, as we're on the field, as we're a chess piece, try to see it from above. That was fascinating to me. I really do like that aspect of the blind layouts. I get Danny wants to talk about Danny. I love the guy. I get he wants to
Danny's great.
Have more. I get he wants to have more variation or try more things. But I think some of the best players can look at a field and know what they can try, what they can get away with at what part of the tournament. I thought at the beginning of this last tournament, you could try a lot of random stuff and get away with it. And then it definitely became more and more refined by Sunday. But we still, on that level match on Sunday, we did do some different reads that I thought gave us just a slight advantage. And I didn't see those reads from them. So when we actually look at impact versus level at this last tournament, I thought that our ability to play the field a little bit more dynamic. Yeah, and like one of the reads we did was actually breaking to the bunker right before the snake instead of that first snake bunker. We had our criteria of decisions of why I should. This is just one aspect of the audibles. Why I should go to that bunker versus the other bunker, depending on how they've lined up in our prelims match. That getting to that bunker off the break was shut down their middle move, and that was how they were liking to win. So that's how we looked at the game. And we also made little audibles on the back line and on the D side. And I guess we're so used to making audibles like this that we didn't need to practice it for 2 weekends before. That's why I really enjoy the blind layouts. It is a different animal. But like, for example, this weekend, I get to see all my brothers and have a good weekend of practice and really take our time on the layout. There's something special about that too. I don't mean to play the middle of this topic because I truly like both aspects throughout the year. I think it's a nice blend. Can we keep that?
No, I get it. I like both too. There's just selfishly as a paintball fan now, because I'm not going to grind on the layout. And so I do enjoy watching it play out in real time instead of seeing 95% of the work already done by the time we get to the tournament, and then see a little touches of refinement here or there, tweaks as we go through. But yeah, no, it's cool. Last couple of questions before I let you go, Mike. So you guys are currently sitting at third place. Dynasty's in first at 550. Heat's in second at 499. And then you guys are tied with Damage at 480. So it's really close. The reason why all this is important is because we do have the brand new thing this year in the Champions Cup. And how that works is that, so you have Dynasty winning 2 majors so far. And then you guys have won a minor, and Damage has won a minor. Now, minors are not going to get you a bye into the quarterfinals, which is what is ideal. So if you guys show up and you win this next major, then you will have a bye, because that's why it's called the Champions Cup. Because a lot of people are confused. They're like, I don't get it. Is it the World Cup or is it the Champions Cup? I'm like, it's both. So it's the Champions Cup that's going down at the World Cup. Oh, well, what is the Champions Cup? I'm like, well, if you really look at the methodology, again, mentally, why they're doing this is because it's the champions from, as we hopefully move things forward the next couple of years, will be champions from around the world. Yes, the best paintball players and teams are in the United States, but the winner of each of the majors advances directly to the quarterfinals, the 3 teams. But Dynasty's won one. So we got this next major coming up. So if it's not Dynasty, then and it could be anybody. I mean, let's just say Level wins it, or Infamous or Revo. I mean, could Level win a tournament? Are they ready? I don't know. They have a 3rd, a 14th, and an 18th, and then a 7th. That they're in 11th place overall.
I think there's a lot of
it's wide open, right?
So are you telling me? Yeah, are you telling me that any team can win this next tournament and get into the Champions Cup? That's what you're saying? Yes.
Into a bye. The winners of each of the majors advance directly to the quarterfinals. 3 teams. Doesn't matter what your overall standings are. You win the tournament. You win a major. You get in. You get a bye. But that's what makes it interesting, right? is that because you guys are because if one team wins multiple major events, then it's the remaining quarterfinal berths will be filled by the top season ranked teams that did not win a major. This is why this next event in Chicago could be really fascinating. Dynasty has won 2 major events. We have the third one coming up. Because you guys in Damage did so well at the minors, you're tied now for third. And then Heat hasn't won a tournament in a year, but they've been so consistent that they're in second. So if whoever wins this next one is going to get the bye. If it's Dynasty again, then it's going to get interesting because then it's probably going to be Heat as it stands now. But there's only 19 points that separate you guys, so that's it. And then that's nothing, dude. It's 16 points in between placing. So that means nothing. Like that's just, that's one placing. So it's getting really close. And then who knows, so I said to you, could Level win a tournament? And they're again ranked 11th place overall. I'm wondering how far down we have to go before we could say, yeah, that team does or does not have a chance to win. Now, what's interesting though, and what makes it fascinating, why I love watching this game, because just when you think paintball gets a little regimented and you're like, oh, well, the favorite team's always going to win and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And yes, we're talking about winning tournaments, but the Ironmen took second place at this last event. And they were coming off a 19th, a 15th, and a 15th. And then they go all the way to second. That's crazy, dude. Like that's that's amazing. So and
shout out to
they
guys they played a pretty solid tournament.
and you guys dismantled them, once they got there. But still, what a hell of a story, right? So
respect.
But mad respect. So that's kind of my question to you is that I'm just want to, out of some of these, so we have, let's just take we got the top 4. Dynasty, Heat, you guys, Damage. Let's take them off the table. Thunder, X Factor, Revo, Infamous, ML Kings, Aftermath, and Level. We'll just go to Level. Of those teams, give me 2 names that you feel are ready to transcend to the next, to become their trajectory is up. And I'll just repeat them. Thunder, who's coming off a 6th and a 4th, which is pretty crazy considering their story. Good. X Factor coming off a 4th and a 3rd after a 16th and a 9th. Revo did not show up at this last event, but they took 3rd at the major in Philly. Infamous wasn't at this last event, and they've had a little bit of a frustrating year. They took a 12th at the last one major. And then they got ML Kings, who finally missed a Sunday after making 4 Sundays in a row. Aftermath's been a little bit of a struggle for them in the middle of the year. They went 4th, 8th, 16th, 11th. And then Level, 3rd, 14th, 18th, 7th. Just your estimation. I just need 2 names, 2 teams. Who do you think is moving forward in the pro leagues that has a decent chance to make a good run at the end of the year to be in the conversation?
I'm going to choose X Factor because they're X Factor. I think they've maybe had some moments that they weren't firing on all cylinders, but you got to always respect that team, and I'll always put them in the upper echelon of paintball teams without a doubt. So I definitely think X Factor. The next team, I'm actually going to choose Level. And I am, like I said, you've probably heard me talk about Level. I'm a big Level fan. And just looking at how this next layout was, so look at the Chicago layout, I think it could be a pretty good field for them. Again, I haven't stepped on the field yet, but just looking at it so far, I don't want to jinx them, but I think they could have a pretty good tournament. And I think that there's this volatility in performance because there's moments where they shine so bright and they do extremely well. There's moments where they're still learning a couple lessons. I have faith in that group of Level guys. I've played against them, practiced against them for a while. Really a big fan of those guys. And they're all level-headed. And also Roger's a coach who I know well. They're being guided in pretty well. So I say X Factor is my vote, but I'd also say I'm rooting for Level.
I mean, the Robbie Gold. Well, I mean, I could. I mean, it's my job to literally make an argument for all of these teams because it's a really fascinating story, every single one of them. But no, with Level, and I love the Robbie Goldsmith connection. So Robbie Goldsmith, old school CEP, Mike Zuppa, old school CEP. So there's been a long running connection there. Yeah, that's probably one of the, when you're talking about, there's guys I call, about regular stuff. I'm assuming that's probably one of your boys that you call. Yeah, everyone loves Robbie, man. I love Robbie Goldsmith. Great dude. Coming out with the whiskey company too. So yeah, I mean, we're always proud of Robbie. Robbie's a beast. There's
Level
a lot of compelling story. They do. So, but and just to, since you mentioned Level,
serious level chess.
So what's interesting is they keep getting better. So when I look at their, so we, Danny made the All-Star team. When I looked at how Weber played at this last event, like Weber was one of the best paintball players in Sacramento by far. I mean, he was, in my book, from the moves I saw him make, because Danny was playing catch out there a couple games. I mean, people were sweet spotting Danny out that first game, but Weber was he was a beast out there. So yeah, he was doing really well. Silberg was outstanding on the D side. On that D side, he was lights out over there. And he's, according to Pando, he's their best athlete. And then you got guys like Askren. I mean, a couple other dudes that are just filling. Again, they're getting deep. And so when you look at their like top 7 guys, their top 7 guys keep showing me improvement. Yes, they took a 14th to 18th in the mid part of the year, but I'm not necessarily always looking at results. I'm looking at, it's like baseball or golf, paintball, whatever it is, man. I'm looking at fundamentals. I'm looking at decisions made in certain situations. And if I'm seeing growth there, that means that you have a bright future in front of you. If I'm seeing regression, regardless on what happens, then that's a little bit more worrying. So it was a big, I thought it was great for Level after, tracking down and taking a 14th and then an 18th, again, second to last, to show up and take a 7th place. I mean, yeah, it's a minor and there was 13 pro teams there, but still, I mean, if you look at the games they had, it was a scrappy performance. They lost you guys twice, and they did lose to the Ironman by 1. But still, I think Level that's a team that works very hard. Like you said, they play the chess game nicely. They read and react to the variables the way that you're typically supposed to, and they are showing growth. So yes, I am also a Level fan. I love Dave Pan. I love Robbie Goldsmith, and the roster they put together are a bunch of hardworking Midwestern dudes. And I think as long as they can keep that team together, they have a pretty bright future. But it is going to get interesting here for this Champions Cup, because so you have the winners of the majors that go directly to the quarterfinals. That's 3 teams. And then you have the winner of the event in Paris coming up, the European Championship, which also gets a berth. So that's 4 teams. And then you have the Latin American winner of Latin American Championships get invited to come to the Pro Division. And then the World Cup prelims are going to be 17 U.S. pro teams, 2 European pro teams, and 1 Latin American team, 4 groups of 5.
Nice.
And then there's going to be a seeding round. So you have the top 3 U.S. teams and then the top European team that got burst into the quarterfinals. And then they're going to play a 3-game preliminary round to determine their seeding. So the World Cup is going to be a World Cup we've never seen before. I think this is an interesting spin on it. And yeah, man, I think it's going to be really fun. So, but you guys are on the precipice right now because you have not won a major and you're ranked 3rd. So, there's a decent chance you guys might not get the bye. There's also a decent chance with how good you look now, you get your full lineup back, that you guys could smash and win this next one and win 2 in a row and be the favorites moving forward. Who knows? So, but that's what's at stake here. But then, Heat's due for a win too. Damage is going to come in hungry. That's the top 4 teams. And then you just have this list of like the 8 teams in the center that are just hungry for it. And then the Ironman taking 2nd place, Uprising 8th at this last one, and they're out down at 15th, 16th. The last question, the last thing that I would say, because you have been in this position, it was before relegation, but down at the very bottom of the pro leagues, we have New York Extreme, which is strange how it all worked out, because now New York Extreme is in last place, but they're only in last place by 2 points to DMG. And Impact is, DMG, that's like your brother team. Diesel also has underperformed this year a ton, and they're down in 18th. And with 2 more events to go, now there is quite a bit of a buffer of points between New York Extreme, DMG, and then Diesel. It's 235 to 159 and 157. So it does look like DMG and New York Extreme's on the bubble. strangely enough, Legion is also down there because they did not make it to their required one minor event. So I'm wondering how that's going to be handled. And then also Uprising, but trending the right way. 2 Sundays in a row for Uprising, a 10th and an 8th. So I just,
really good job.
If you had to pick it, so that would be kind of, I'm just wondering, what do you think is going on in the minds? You've been on a team that's been at the bottom of the barrel in the pro ranks. It's incredibly frustrating. You're doing all you can to get better. Things are not working out for you, but we have talked about the Extreme. Extreme lost a bunch of, they took 10th at this last one. They didn't suck. They lost a bunch of 1-point games. It was really frustrating for them, but they are currently in last place. Talk to me about the mentality of what's going on with these guys that are in that bottom tier right now, because you have been there.
Sure.
That would be my last question.
So, there's teams that in situations where you can be kind of playing on your toes. There's also situations where you're playing on your heels. And sometimes you're playing on your heels when you're way up points and you're kind of slowing the game down. Or in this situation, I would say that they might be playing on their heels to not get relegated. And that's sometimes a mentality to just do enough. Like, we just need to do this to not get relegated. I think that's kind of the wrong mentality. If that exists, we'll see it in their gameplay. It's obvious when people play on their toes or on their heels. Whatever team is actually on their toes to bust some heads and play together and really go for, I think, the win, or just go to really to go far in the tournament, you're going to see that, and that team's going to do the best. Either team has, I think, that capacity. If there was a team that could play on their toes, maybe a little bit stronger, it would be NYX, because they like to just run wild and go bust some heads. So I think if it was, in my opinion, weighted, I'd say it's weighted towards NYX to really stir it up down there and get out of that position. But whenever the fire is on your butt, there's the people that want to really get up and get on their toes and get out of that. And then there's others that just that don't handle that situation very well. So we'll see at the next tournament. I think it's all going to come out in the mentality and how they can orchestrate and execute out there.
I think that's a really good point, because if you look at how the Ironmen played at this last one, that's a team historically known for aggression, been world champs in 3 different incarnations of the game going back 3 decades. And when their feet were put to the fire and their backs were to the wall, again, pick your sports cliche for sucking and not doing well and having to really step it up. And sure enough, 19th, 15th, so second to last place, 15th, 5th from last, and then a second. Dude, that's mad respect to the Ironmen. They played, and just like you said, Mike, they did not look at this like, okay, what do we need to do to not get relegated? They're like, we need to come out and play paintball the way it's supposed to be played. This field,
yes,
just like all the fields for the past couple of years, benefits aggression. So let's put our most aggressive guys out there, and we'll just keep cycling through our dudes until we get our starting 5. So, props to Nikki McEvers, who handled business as the coach, going to get those new players and all those dudes that stepped up to actually get it done on the field. But it's just like Mike said, so if you're Extreme or DMG or Diesel, that's the mentality you need to have. Go play the field the way it's supposed to be played. Don't play like you're worried about getting relegated. Go play paintball the way it's supposed to be played. And then, let the chips fall where they may. Mike, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you sitting in here with me. I'm really so excited for you and all the good things that have been happening for you here recently, because you have been grinding your ass off, this past decade plus in order to get to this position. Good things do happen, people, with the right place, right time, right talent, right mentality, some grit and some gumption. Lo and behold, you could be getting handed a check and an MVP award and put Edmonton Impact on your back to get a victory. Was that the first one? Did you just christen yourself as a pro champion right there with that win, dude? What? And it could have been done in a better way. Bro, not only did you get your first pro win. Oh, dude. That's amazing. You didn't ride the bench.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
You didn't ride the bench. It wasn't somebody else going to get it done for you. Just send us off with your thoughts on that. Like, how are you feeling right now? Again, Mike won the MVP. He won the move of the tournament. He got paid. All the kudos went to you, and you deserved it. I went and talked to Dave. So afterwards, and when it all happened, and we were like, oh, it's got to be Mike Zuppa. Let's go check with Dave Baines before we officially give it off. Got to check with the coach. I'm like, What's up, dude? I'm thinking Mike Zuppa, right? And he's like, dude, 100%, bro. 1000%. It's got to be Mike. Got to be Mike. So, yeah, dude. So send us off with your thoughts on your performance, capping off the career here. I know, again, you got, nothing but gold in front of you, but you finally did it, bro. You won the tournament and in dream fashion.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's not like I had some good plays. A lot of people on the team had good plays. Like literally the whole team was playing extremely well, and it felt incredible. Like we almost kind of knew it was going to happen. We couldn't say it, but like we all felt it. We felt it that morning. It was the coolest thing ever. I hope everybody feels that one day, but you feel it. Like Alex Goldman came in and he felt it too. And he's like, guys, just keep doing what you're doing. And Alex was like, just so awesome to have like, to let me play in a way and support me and help me. And we were just, it was a dream. It really was a dream. I'll tell you this, I guess. It's been 18 years since I started playing paintball to get my first pro win. 18 years. And you heard about the ups and downs with CEP and with Katana and Revo and all the divisional times. And I even quit for a year and came back. And like, I never would have expected this to happen unless I couldn't read the future. So after the finals, after we won, it wasn't a crazy night. I had to get home and get back to normal life. But I'm sitting there at Panera with some of the guys, and we're just having a nice Panera meal, just kind of reflecting on everything. And it occurred to me, like, there's so many times in our lives when we look back and say, that was one of the best days of my life. And that was the first time I can remember where I said, this right now is one of the best days in my entire life. You kidding me? Like, first time winning a pro tournament. And it was, I guess that realization was cool because like Darula felt the same way. And like Fuzz, I think it was his second pro tournament winning. And it was just really special to recognize that why wouldn't this be one of the best days of my life and really enjoy it and live in the moment. That's what that evening was all about. So it was an extremely special day. And thank you so much for all the love and everyone along the way that's helped me. So many mentors, so many friends. And of course, all the guys on the Impact team, they're my brothers now. Now these guys are my brothers in the journey, and I couldn't imagine playing without them.
Hey,
paintball's
that's how
beautiful,
it works,
man.
Yeah, paintball's beautiful. You can have a lot of different brothers, and they never go away. That's one of the greatest things about it. Mike, you deserve all your kudos. You earned it. 18 years in the making, and you are right. Yes, a lot of guys played well in Edmonton Impact in order for you guys to get that victory, but you played the best, man. You really did. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have for this next event, for the World Cup, and for a good time coming, because like I really do truly feel that you're coming into your own and you're in your prime, which is a scary thing for the rest of the league. Mike Zuppa, blessings to you and your family. I wish you nothing but the best of luck moving forward. And everyone out there, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, mark your calendars. September 9th through the 11th. Next battle's going down at the Windy City. We've got the All-Star game also going down on Sunday. Looking forward to see that. It's going to be a fun one. And yeah, it's been a crazy year so far. And like we always say, it's going to continue to get crazier because it always does. It's paintball. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Mike, I love you, buddy. Take care.
Love you too. Thank you so much.